Seismic charges. Stand by.
These 5 buildings within the Star Wars galaxy most likely had asbestos. You will have to see it to believe it. Asbestos is a naturally occurring fibrous silicate mineral, all of which are composed of long and thin fibrous crystals, each fiber being composed of many microscopic fibrils that can be released into the atmosphere by abrasion and other processes. It is an excellent electrical insulator and is highly heat resistant, so for many years it was used as a building material to reduce possibilities of fire, but it is now known to pose a serious health and safety risk, causing serious lung conditions. First building, the STALGASIN hive colony located on the planet of GEONOSIS. Like all other hives on the planet, it consisted of spiral-like mounds made of stone powder and fender dung. But add another material to the list, asbestos. As I watched Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, this panning shot of a spiral-like mound looked normal upon first glance, but as I continued to utilize my critical thinking skills, I realized that this hovering dust here is not normal. Based on the colouring and composition, it looks to be floating asbestos fibrils from the thin and fibrous crystals contained underneath the stone powder facade. These almost what you could call dust clouds are the product of abrasion caused most likely in the circumstance by lack of maintenance and the substandard application of fender dung, which seems to be showing signs of cracking and is exposing the inner asbestos cladding. Next, I wish to discuss the city of GUNGA. Its bubble-like buildings consisted of hydrostatic force fields and contained special portals that allowed their inhabitants to enter and exit. But what is one thing we all learned at school? Electricity and water don't mix. So around the outer lining of this metalwork here, where the hydrostatic force field makes contact, I am observing a light whiter shade, which could very likely be asbestos cladding, used to minimize the risk of fire caused by outside moisture coming in contact with the electrical power grids used for GUNGA's lighting. Rusting of the metal through constant contact with water could potentially cause abrasion and release asbestos fibers into the air, seriously posing health and safety risks for GUNGA's citizens. The next building I would like to highlight is one in which its issues are already well documented. Go watch my Galactic Senate in Truth Exposed video. The Galactic Senate was home to the Galactic Senate Chamber, Chancellor's Podium, Chancellery Secretariat, and the Chancellor's Working Office. So it was well and truly a building at the heart of unimaginable power and influence. But under its metal cladding, it was anything but. It appears as though many of these mood lighting strips were actually infused with asbestos materials, and it is widely theorized that the original builders thought this material would be long-lasting and flexible. Because the Senate building was so big and so many distinguished politicians occupied the space, they would have been thinking of materials to use that ensure safety and the minimization of fire risk. Because advanced operational technological equipment was relied upon to carry out this system, and it was considered that various electronic circuits could bring with it the potential to overheat and cause fire, asbestos was most likely inserted into the disconnection pads to ensure safety, but this is just one huge contradiction. The next building which most likely contains asbestos is those within TIPOCA City on KAMINO, home to the KAMINOan cloning facilities for the Grand Army of the Republic. Now it is in my opinion here that these outside lights are not merely lights, they are luminescents illuminating asbestos cladding through transparent glass sheets. Yes, it is a light per se, but it's almost performing the function of a lightsaber. We all know that when you put a red crystal in a lightsaber, you get a red colored lightsaber, and when you put a green crystal in, you get a green laser. When you put long and thin fibrous asbestos crystals in, you get a white laser. Hence, we are seeing white light here illuminating from asbestos cladding, revealing that this building contains the lethal material. I mean, I understand it is such a strategically important city, being the lifeblood of the Republic's army, and they need to think about fire risks, etc. But if they know how to clone armies, then surely they know how to use alternative materials for fire prevention that don't contain asbestos and pose significant health risks to their entire Kaminoan population? The final building, so to speak, that I wish to highlight as one containing asbestos is the Death Star, which is more of a floating circular city, but oh well. The Death Star was built by prolific asbestos users mentioned at the start of this list, the GEONOSIans. I mean, of course, we all know Puckle the Lesser had the plans for the Death Star and was essentially its project manager, so it's basically just a given that he authorized asbestos materials for the Death Star's creation. Further, I firmly believe that the Death Star superlaser, which finally came into creation due to the work of Orson Krennic and Galen Orso, was not merely to eradicate planets for the sake of instilling fear within the galaxy, but it was actually being utilized as part of a large-scale asbestos removal scheme, implemented by Darth Sidious upon finding out that many of the galaxy's major structural hubs contained high levels of asbestos. Thus, the only way to get rid of the deadly materials was to make use of the laser's energy, which was so powerful that it would cause the target atoms, in this case asbestos, to split into matter/antimatter pairs and annihilate themselves, creating hundreds of miniature singularities, effectively eradicating the existence of any present asbestos. Woohoo! That's cause for an Ewok celebration for sure. But what I find ironic is that Darth Sidious ordered the sterilization of GEONOSIS, implementing the largest genocide in the galaxy's history, perhaps in order to clear the way for a superlaser strike and remove asbestos, but he did this while sitting in the very structure that the GEONOSIans created, which most likely contained asbestos. Sweet, sweet irony. So there you have it. 5 buildings within the Star Wars galaxy which contained asbestos. It is clear based on my investigation that those within the Star Wars galaxy do not share the same understanding or knowledge of the potential health risks caused by this material. If you guys ever do see some, do not approach it and contact appropriate professionals to dispose of it in the appropriate manner. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next. And remember, be happy.
We lost the transmission, sir.